Undecember is a free-to-play isometric ARPG with heavy influences from Diablo Immortal, but also some key features that remind me of Path of Exile. My favorite part of that is its complexity. This game isn't easy. Just like Path of Exile, some players may not even make it to the endgame. This campaign actually requires you to engage with its systems and learn how to build a proper character at a level much deeper than most games require you to. Undecember is not as complex as Path of Exile, but it definitely has a variety of different stats, a number of different currencies to craft your gear, unique weapons and armor that offer helpful bonuses, and a good variety of skills to power up using a leveling and support gem-like system. So while the systems are familiar, Undecember offers enough uniqueness to keep your attention. The difficulty of the bosses provides a great test of your skill and your build, so you are always looking for that next push for more damage or better defenses. The combat is smooth, and movement is mostly fluid and responsive. The story is pretty unique, even though the dialogue and voice acting for the English translation is pretty terrible at some points. Everything is pretty good. Really, for the first 7 acts of the game, I didn't have a single complaint. But as they say, everything is fine until it isn't. And once those issues reared their ugly heads, I couldn't look away. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a casual review, a series where I review popular games so you can decide if you want to try them out. In this video, we're going to discuss how Undecember presents itself to new players, and if the game is good enough to back up its cash shop. Straight up, this game is pretty good. 6 out of 10, boom, review over. Just kidding, this is probably going to be one of my longer videos, but wait, you'll want to hear my critiques, because I stopped playing it. I lost interest in Undecember for a couple of very specific reasons, and while they may not be a complete deal breaker for a lot of people, they definitely hindered my enjoyment of the game. So let's start this friendly discussion with the good, the bad, and the ugly. But first, if you'd like to show the channel some love, please click that like button or leave a comment on the video. I read all of them, even if it has nothing to do with the game. Tell me about your love for ARPGs or your absolute hate of pay-to-win cash shops. Whatever it may be, remember to also subscribe for more RPG and MMO content. I recently hit 10,000 subs, and I want to thank you all so much for your support and kind words that you leave on all my videos. I know I'm not exactly consistent or frequent with my uploads, but rest assured that every video I make has only been uploaded to YouTube because I feel it is worthy enough to be seen by your beautiful eyes. I will never put anything other than 100% of my quality into my videos, so if I put up a shit one, well. Anyway, thank you all again so much, and let's get back to the video. Not that I always expect a lower quality for mobile games, but as a PC and mobile title, Undecember does a lot of things well. On top of being very well optimized for PC, most of the key ARPG features you would find in any other game are here, and they are fairly well done. Combat is smooth, even if I did feel that there were a few missed clicks of my movement. Every so often I would click and drag my mouse to try and move my character, but the game wouldn't register it as a click. May have been something I was doing, but I don't feel like I have that issue in many other games. Undecember tries its best to create a new world with its own lore and story, and even though it's nothing incredibly special, I love that they took some time to really make it work. There are items that give you small insights into the lore to collect out in the world, and the entire campaign is driven by a cinematic story that provides insight into the world building of who you are and why you are helping the people that you do. Like I said, the story is nothing groundbreaking, but it's interesting enough and it provides a reason for you to be there. Enemy variety is extremely good. There are tons of different types of enemies you have to worry about throughout the game with different types of damage. And from map to map, you always feel like you're encountering something new. Bosses were hard and mostly extremely fun. Some of them seemed overtuned, like the game was forcing you to go back and recraft your gear every time, which is a cool idea on paper, but can get pretty messy when you have this much RNG in your player power systems. The skill system was familiar, but unique enough to keep my attention. The skill system is sort of like Path of Exile's skill gem system, but in this hexagon format. Each skill is its own hexagon, and it can be supported by up to 6 support skills. But you can only link the support skill if it matches the color of an active slot on the main skill. For example, my build used the burn arrow skill, and I had 3 support skills to make it more powerful. I also had a red link rune, which allowed me to attach another spell to my burn arrow, so whenever I cast burn arrow, I automatically cast this blade spell as well. If you want to add more slots, you have to use currencies to basically roll the dice and see if you can get more slots. But obviously this is a risk, because you could also end up with less slots. You can equip up to 10 spells, 5 on each action bar, and there is a wide variety of spells to choose from. Since you don't choose a class or anything, building your character's spells with your weapon and gear loadout is basically how you choose what type of character you're going to be. tanky melee, nimble archer, powerful sorcerer, and within those build archetypes are a number of different builds depending on what skills you equip. You can play with minions, or powerful elemental blasts, hard-hitting melee blows, or piercing arrows. And on top of all that, there is a Zodiac point system, where you spend Zodiac points at every level to further customize your playstyle with straight stat increases. This is kind of like Grim Dawn's Devotion point system. The best part of all of this is that you could definitely feel the power progression through leveling skills, upgrading your gear, and spending your Zodiac points. Any change you made was almost immediately felt in the game. For example, at one point early on, I got to a boss that was absolutely punishing me. Not only did it have a huge health pool, but anytime I made a small mistake and got hit by an ability, I would be immediately below 30% health. So after throwing myself at the boss a couple times, I decided to see how I could change my gear to give myself a better chance of beating it. I quickly teleported back to the town, checked to see what elemental resist was recommended, and got to work on my gear. I spent some rare crafting currencies and got the resist I needed, then went back to the boss, and with that single change, I was able to beat the boss and move on to the next act. So crafting and stats definitely play a huge part in the game, and that's pretty normal for an ARPG, so I'm not saying it's surprising or incredibly unique, I just think they made it work, and that immediate gratification is wildly entertaining. However, with this gearing and crafting system comes what I feel is a large negative about the game: the RNG. I really only have one thing for the bad category, but it's a long one to explain, so I'll try to make it quick. Even though I love the gearing system overall, I did eventually start to get annoyed by the amount of RNG that is present in the game. The currency crafting system is not my cup of tea. Upgrading your gear is the most important part of an ARPG. It's basically the entire point of it. Build your character till you can smash everything and feel like a god amongst men. Undecember's gearing feels extremely impactful, which is amazing. That's how I feel it should be. If you run into a boss that kills you, which you will, the bosses start to get really hard, go back to the town, craft a better set of gear, and try again. And I appreciate that the game gives you this recommended resistance for that area. That way you know beforehand that you have to look for a certain type of stat on a piece of equipment. I like that it means so much, and I like that it's generally pretty simple. Grab a piece of gear, make it magic or rare, use this currency to change the properties of the gear to your liking. The UI is nice and clean, it explains everything to a usable level, and over time you get extremely used to how it works because you are using it a lot. But here's where I personally fall out of love with this. The currency crafting system is all RNG. In a game with so much emphasis on crafting, a game with a difficulty level set for the need to craft specific resistances in order to progress, it doesn't feel too good that the primary way to upgrade your gear is all random luck of the draw. Now I know, other ARPGs have RNG, this isn't something that is unique to Undecember, but let me add in a couple more factors for why I think this is worse than some other ARPGs. We've established that stats and upgrading your gear is extremely important, as it is in all ARPGs. In Undecember, being able to survive in a boss fight and kill them within a reasonable time frame is a genuine concern, and usually I love this. The difficulty is at a great level, especially when this is the campaign and not the endgame. You can enjoy the journey and not just rush to whatever endgame system the game has in store for you. We've established that crafting is the main source of gear and skill upgrades, with crafting currency dropping from enemies or being given to you through rewards while completing the campaign. And finally, we've established that this crafting is heavily RNG based. So here's where it gets a little worse. Currency is obviously limited, meaning you'll have to grind for more if you run out. There are a lot of different currencies, and while you get a fair amount, you can definitely run out of them. The reason you run out of currencies is because there is no one-to-one crafting system. You can't influence the crafting really at all. All modifiers are up for randomization when you roll the dice on upgrading a piece of gear. So if you want to target a specific stat to increase, for example, a certain damage resistance, you still have to roll the dice with all of these stats and find a combination that works best for your build and includes the one stat you're looking for. And next time when you need a new stat or want an upgrade, you have to roll that dice again. Listen, Path of Exile has a ton of RNG for its gearing, but it at least gives you a crafting system where you can pick and choose certain modifiers for your gear as long as you have the currency and have unlocked the recipe. Undecember has no crafting system, at least not one that I've been introduced to yet, so at this point in the game, everything is crafted using the currency system. And for the most part, I can understand this. I mean, it's not my preferred amount of RNG, but hey, some people really like grinding and feeling that euphoria when you get that one combination of stats that you feel perfectly complements your build. But to me, this is a battle of willpower. This amount of RNG to progress in the game is more stressful than it is fun for me. On paper, it seems fine, but in practice, it makes the game just a little too much like you're trying to win enough money to buy a car by playing blackjack. Like you're trying to beat the house when the game is designed so the house wins. I think the best way to explain this is to give an example of how this actually works in a real situation. This is the Act 7 final boss, Archbishop Magus, who the game recommends you fight at level 55. First thing I noticed was that I was level 50 after having completed all the side quests, getting 100% exploration on every single map, and fighting all monsters as I explored every map. And I was still 5 levels behind, so I guess the game expects you to grind a bit. That's not really a complaint, just more of a statement of fact. In terms of being prepared for this fight, I went in with pretty good stats for the level of the content, but immediately I tried and I was one-shotted by his fire attacks. I tried a couple more times and the same thing happened, so I said, okay, I've done this before, let's go back to town and craft. I go back to town, look at all my gear, check my resistances, and make sure I'm maxed on fire resistance. I level up my spells and spend 200 essences to try and get 5 slots on my sentry skill just to see if it would help me in battle. 200 attempts and I didn't get it, of course. But feeling a bit more confident with my maxed out fire resistance and overall better armor rating as well, I head back over to the boss. 1 shot, 1 kill. On me, I died. So now I am a bit confused. I'm thinking of what else I can change to keep myself from dying when my resistances are already at max. And my Path of Exile experience says, oh, okay, well, maybe I need more health. So I head back to town, and I'm about to hit that blacksmith up for some more upgrades when I stop and legit take my hands off my mouse and keyboard. If I craft more, I need to find more HP and keep my fire resist. But it's all random, so it's basically just my luck if I get a piece of gear with good fire resist and health. That thought, that fact of the game, discouraged me a little bit. All that currency I just spent to get fire resist on my gear, well, now I have to do that again, but for something twice as difficult. Fire resist and health. If I get one of them, well, too bad. Gotta roll again until I get both. And even after playing around with my armor a second time, getting max fire resist and trying to get some more health or dodge or some other defense that would help me, I went back and I was still being one-shotted. So my journey continues. Now I'm discouraged. I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's because I need to level some more. So I go and I start killing some mobs. 20 to 30 minutes later, I went up half a level to 51. I spent my Zodiac points on some more defense and went back to try again. But before I went in, I looked up the fight on YouTube and found some random guy that had recorded himself barely beating the boss. Not only was this guy level 57, but he was also playing a summoning build in which one of his minions could basically draw the boss's attacks away while he ran around dodging all the mechanics, throwing ranged attacks whenever he could. Which is basically what I do with my sentries, but could you imagine if I was trying to do this with melee? Poor melee bastards. So once again, I go back into the boss fight. I was able to do okay. I was learning the fight at least, so I was getting better at dodging, but I'm still dying fairly early in the fight. So at this point, I was exhausted of this boss. So I decided that I would use the cheat code. I did the best I could, and when I died, I used the Scrolls of Resurrection, which allowed me to come back to life and resume the fight immediately. Yeah, you can do that. And that leads me into... You can pay to bypass all of this shit I just did to try and beat the boss. If you aren't getting lucky with your crafting and you need more essences, just buy more essences and keep trying. Can't get a 5-slot skill gem that will increase your DPS significantly so you don't die as much, while also making grinding for more essences or extra experience 10 times faster? Just buy a 5 to 6 slot essence, which gives you a 90% chance to get a 5-slot skill gem. Still dying to a boss but don't want to keep resetting its health to try again? Just buy more Scrolls of Resurrection so you can die and resurrect to continue the fight immediately. Yes, Undecember is that type of game. Haven't mentioned that yet? The monetization in this game is beyond pay to win. Not as bad as Diablo Immortal, but it's definitely a free-to-play mobile game with pay-to-win cash shop. Before I get into the cash shop though, I want to finish my thoughts on how this monetization affected my mindset when dealing with all of this RNG. This isn't the first boss that I had to reroll all my gear with. In fact, I started dying to bosses all the way back in Act 4. And even though the stats feel impactful, and you do feel good when you get the right combination, you have to do it so often that at a couple points I actually did run out of currency. And of course, then you have this constant reminder that the cash shop is there. And if you don't fall prey to its constant call in the corner of your screen, you also have the thought in the back of your mind that all of your gear, your spells, your gameplay could all be improved if you just spent a little bit of money. If you're dying, you can pay for currency to upgrade your gear. Not doing enough damage, you can pay for currency to upgrade and level your skills. Don't want to pay? Well, enjoy grinding the RNG power systems while Timmy the Whale over here has already moved on to the end game and is taking part in awesome group raids. All of the issues compounded into a heavy distaste of playing the game. Not because the game itself wasn't fun, but because of the combination of the RNG power systems, unfairly difficult boss encounters that require higher defenses and power than you would normally acquire through the campaign gameplay, and the understanding that these two things were probably designed this way specifically to drive you to the cash shop. Now, I will say this again to clearly call it out. This is my opinion, and I don't mean to discourage anyone who plays the game. If you enjoy it, play it. It doesn't matter what I say. I just want to share one of the 3 main reasons why I didn't enjoy the game, this one being the RNG player power systems. Now let's get into the other 2 reasons. First up is the cash shop, of course. Well, the entire monetization strategy, to be honest. I think I can summarize this one pretty quickly. Pay-to-win cash shop that has crafting, skill gem, and leveling essences, as well as gameplay conveniences that should come standard in the game, but are sold to use as solutions to problems that didn't have to exist in the first place. Check. Paid battle pass that gives you a steep increase in currencies and resources over the free version of the battle pass? Check. Seasonal and event rewards for doing absolutely nothing? Check. Daily login rewards? Check. Now granted, you don't have to pay for anything. You can play for free and complete all the content with the RNG gods on your side. In fact, by itself, the cash shop wasn't really a problem for me. I mentioned on my live stream a couple times that it didn't bother me really, except for the fact that you had to pay for a pet to pick up loot on the ground for you. This one bothered me a little bit just because picking up loot on the ground is tedious as hell. Like, the devs could have made the pickup range for items a bit larger, but no, they intentionally kept your pickup radius small so you would feel inclined to buy the pet service. So yeah, the monetization and the whole mobile game-like rewards thing is not my cup of tea. I hate having to click on all these different receive reward buttons, even if I do rely on these rewards to upgrade my gear and skill gems. Last but not least is something that actually has nothing to do with the gameplay, but it's a deal breaker for a lot of people, and for me, it's just kind of annoying, and along with the other 2 issues, I just may not want to deal with it at all. Undecember is installed on your computer along with an anti-cheat called Protect Game Guard. It has been used on many games before, and there hasn't really been any issue with it other than the fact that it's a mediocre anti-cheat program at best. But Undecember has come under fire recently because they install Protect on your computer, and Protect is something called a rootkit. A rootkit is a file type that allows the program to bypass some of your computer's securities and run programs in the background without your permission. Generally, Protect Game Guard is safe, and there have not been any reports of security issues with it. But here's the part that's generally seen as controversial with Undecember. When you uninstall Undecember, Protect stays on your computer. You actually have to use a different program altogether to uninstall Protect. The Undecember devs have provided the uninstall program, but it's definitely not a good look that this was an issue in the first place. Again, Protect Game Guard is a widely known anti-cheat. I believe PUBG used it. The only issues I've seen online are people reporting that it slows down their computer and runs in the background even when they're not playing a game. So this is less of a warning and more of a just be careful, and if it messes with your computer, the uninstall link is in the description. To wrap this up though, I'll give Undecember a score of 6 out of 10, which is actually pretty good considering that this is a Diablo Immortal clone that launched 2 months ago. The combat is smooth and it's fun to play around with your build and upgrade all your stats, even if the RNG starts to get demoralizing after a while. It feels good to play, you feel that euphoria when you overcome the challenge of a difficult boss, and you feel the impact of your choices as you slowly build your character's power and abilities. And I haven't even reached endgame yet. I've seen one of the raids and it seems pretty fun to group up and take part in. It's kind of hard to say if I recommend this game or not. Undecember isn't anything groundbreaking and most people may just be patient enough to wait for Diablo 4, but it is unique enough to be a good experience. I don't regret playing it, I just don't think I'll continue. I personally just didn't find the good parts of the game to outweigh the bad, but I did get over 50 hours out of the game. I think the most important thing I want to stress with this video is that if you don't find the RNG and cash shop to be a deal breaker, then don't let it keep you from experiencing the game. It's still a really good game overall, it's just one with certain features and a cash shop that you have to be aware of. If I had to rank this game against all the other ARPGs I reviewed, it's somewhere right above the middle. Ranked 3 out of the 7 isometric ARPGs I've reviewed on the channel so far, even with the glaring issues of RNG and pay to win. But most importantly, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you liked it and subscribe for more content. I hope you enjoy your randomly generated stat adventures, and I can't wait to see what we talk about next.